I really don't know what to think to this. So there's this MP, standing ovation for an MP who has had his limbs amputated after sepsis. Absolutely no idea where this has come from. I hadn't heard of it before. Sepsis, right? This is kind of, I think it's getting kind of weird now. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying, and it is clearly understandable that this is extremely upsetting and traumatic, and it's difficult for all parties involved. And the fact that they're still an MP and doing the job obviously is commendable. But saying that, it has to be noted, regardless of whether it is taboo or not, is that the timing for this, there was apparently an off-duty police accident killed on the M1 the other day. We've just found out, we're finding out that all of the notices of intended prosecution could be illegal because the police chiefs aren't supposed to hold pleas, right? That's a big deal, and there's a weird accident kind of response. Then there was a lot of thing happening with the army. There was a big incident with the army with landmines and soldiers getting their legs blown off. And then there was this guy who had metal feet fitted, and they made a big kind of a really, really big publicity deal about it. All due respect to him, but the way they went about it, it was very, very, very strange. I mean, it was this huge television, almost like it wasn't far off as much publicity as that Major Tom. And that Major Tom story, with all that money raised, ended up being a bit of a ridiculous affair with his family spending all that money on all the luxuries and everything when it wasn't supposed to go to them and so forth. There's just been a guy on Tucker Carlson, an ex-military Marine guy who does some mercenary work as well. He's kind of like anti-globalist, and he knows a lot of people who have had a lot of army injuries and so forth, permanent injuries and so forth. But there doesn't seem to be anything like this on this level. And that army incident, the very, very weird, odd exhibition from the military over that soldier, and there's nothing wrong with that soldier. I mean, in terms of, it's the timing and response of these incidents, and then the timing of this. I hadn't heard anything about this. Maybe I should have done, but I don't know what the timing was for it. But there's all of that weird stuff been happening with all those strange formations in people's veins that have been coming out, and Dr. John Campbell's been putting publicity to that. Then he's had a guest on the other day, this woman who's had permanent injuries, very, very serious lifelong injuries from a vaccine. He has had other people on as well. I think one of them did challenge Rishi Sunak. But the government are under a lot of pressure from all these very peculiar, weird and odd vaccine injuries that shouldn't have happened. They've actually been caused by the government and these companies forcing them on people. And Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, ended up in hospital. But it's why are these happening? Why were we all forced to take those vaccines? Boris Johnson's dad's next door neighbour incident, blew his head off with a shotgun or whatever, that scares ministers. Now, ministers are under a lot of pressure and a lot of fire from the public and all these incidents and accidents. But the thing about it is that this MP incident appears. I don't know what the odds and chances are. How about that guy, who's George Galloway's replaced, who passed away as well? I don't think that it's just like some sort of juju or bad luck or something like that. It's many people are saying that those Sexton case to do with the veins, what's appearing everywhere all over, that it's actually could be a bioweapon. All of these incidents, such as the Johnson ones, both of them, himself and his father, he could have been, spiked or smeared with some kind of disease or vaccine to put him in hospital and make an example of him. And some of these other injuries and so forth, what I think is getting a bit weird about it now with this standing ovation is like there's nothing. He should get a standing ovation. I mean, or he should get he should be praised for still being able to be an MP when disabled. But saying that, there's something going on with Biden. Biden, in a very short amount of time, lost all his vitality and his memory, right? Just deteriorated very quickly. And yet he's the president of America, and people aren't saying he's fit for president. And people are starting to say, are other people pulling the strings? Are these people used as puppets, right? Same with Johnson when he got, vaccine in hospital from a bad vaccine, COVID related incident. And then the thing with his dad's next door neighbour, right? And it's... You've got all this kind of like government pushing this gender changing and sex changing, and they're wanting to kind of like get schools to encourage all this weird behaviour. And at the same time, you've got all these people coming out who have had like very, very strange and peculiar, rare injuries and incidents compared to these from these vaccines. And what's happening is the response from the government is kind of like they've got this. It feels to me now like they're celebrating almost like mutation or maiming, being maimed, celebrating being maimed, or celebrating being mutated, or celebrating having a disability, but not kind of like just because it's like tragic or some kind of like genuine rare accident or something like that, or these. Then you've got these Invictus games. It's kind of like it's the a lot of this has been caused by the government and by these big companies, as if they've done it on purpose. Like we have been maimed, we have been mutilated. And instead of condemning it and acting against it, the MPs never turned up in Parliament when they were talking about mysterious deaths, with Andrew Bridgen talking about it. They didn't want anything to do with it, didn't want to know about it. We've only just managed to get them to pull out of this WHO treaty or refuse to sign it. And then now they are all giving standing ovations for this tragedy, this poor gentleman who has had to go through this horrible experience and this stay. And maybe it's right to carry on as an MP and show that you can do it with disability, but is he doing it now as the government kind of making some sort of gesture or comeuppance for their cause and fault of what's happened to all these other people? And what is the mysterious timing of this MP and what happened to him? The timing couldn't be better for the government to kind of put their hands up and say, we made everyone take these vaccines and all these horrible things have happened to people, but hey, things are happening to us, and look at this guy with disability. And in a way, it's ironically even a nod of acknowledgement to the fact that MPs all really are in a way disabled in their ability to understand and apply the law and rules, because a lot of them have been changing the law and making the law unlawfully and not really professionally and not knowing what they're doing. And then you've got all these other incidents happening, like Johnson and that motorway incident and so forth, which I don't think they're just random accidents. And that guy going into that tea party, the media are playing a role in this. There's some media role in this. And I don't think that it's all by chance. I think there's some sort of, what happened, Madeleine, Princess Diana flair to it. And it's starting to feel almost kind of like some of these films, I mean, like the Time Bandits or Willow, when they get, small people or midgets in there. And, I have to say that, to be honest, that Time Bandits film, I happen to think that film is probably one of the best films ever made, right? That Time Bandits film, I think that is one of the best films ever made. And the main cast of it are midgets. But generally, saying that it's one of the best films ever made, it still is sort of making fun out of or humour out of, the, halfling midget people. I mean, you've got that wee man. I don't think that these people should, I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't be on TV. They can't do really well, like in sports and anything. But, for example, that wee man who's a skateboarder, who's like an amazing professional skateboarder, right? He just, like, skateboards with everyone else. He just fits in with the rest of them, and he's part of a team, and he's in videos, and the message in that is that he's just a person like everyone else, but just a smaller person, right? And he's obviously he's pro as well. He doesn't seek or pursue some kind of special separate class like this Invictus Games does or anything like that. Maybe there is, they've been arguing about, whether, male and female can, participate together or, gender change, transsexuals and that. And obviously it would be really ridiculous to think of maybe a wheelchair basketball playing with other players. Maybe it might be dangerous or got in the way. But, does that mean to say there's going to be one in every match? I don't know, but there's something about it's that they're giving them. This is an ovation because it happened and he's there and it exists and it's like clapping pans at the door for COVID. It's like an ovation because this happened to him, and here we have a disabled MP in a strange condition. It's not kind of like just commending a person because they've been through a very tough experience or an unfortunate experience. It's sensationalizing, and it's almost like some sadomasochist thing, but not for sexual things, for maiming or mutations or disability. I don't know, maybe ancient cultures did venerate, people who were different. But when all these other things have happened to everyone else, what I actually think that this message this gives out, and if I'm wrong, fair enough about this. I mean, it's not a pleasant thing to have to talk about for anyone, right? But it's almost like they're celebrating their work, their handiwork. Like, here's one we made earlier. It's got this Blue Peter vibe to it. It's almost like, we got all these vaccines, we made them, we authorised it, we approved it, and we made everyone have them. And, look at all these creations we've made, all these mutations and so forth. And they're almost kind of like a sculpture or an artist. When Charles reveals his painting, Charles is revealing the painting. It's almost like getting the test results and saying, everyone's testosterone's dropped by 50% since the war, and almost commending the food industry or the scientists, giving them a clap. Haven't they done well in industry? Haven't they done well in the food industry? It's almost like giving McDonald's or KFC or Subway or the Sugar Beet Factory an award for their work in reducing everyone's sperm count by 50%. It's almost like, well done. Like that, to celebrate that this is what they were, it's how they designed it. You know, it's almost like getting, Chav in a tracksuit and saying, didn't we do well? All the criminals, the crime's gone up through the roof. It's almost like Rishi Sunak sort of like going into Birmingham Town Centre and getting a TV crew and a set and getting all of the criminals together who've been breaking the law and kind of giving them an award and celebrating them because haven't the police done well because the crime level's gone up through the roof, and saying, well done, criminals, thanks. Now we can get all the security and surveillance cameras in and that facial recognition that we've been wanting to plan and hoping we can get through. And now there's a perfect reason for it. There's a perfect reason. It's like all of the criminals that are responsible for all these new crime levels and knives and getting them together and then giving them a clap and celebrating them, and Lord Walney and the Secretary of State for the Home Office and the Police Chief Commissioner kind of like giving them an award and saying, oh, thanks, this is great, now we can get this facial recognition software in and all these other spyware that we need. We wouldn't have been able to do it without you, right? Otherwise, how could we get it in? Just say that we want to snoop around people and track where they're going, just for fun. That's what it's like. And the fact that they made the vaccines and approved it and encouraged it and wanted to put all these Moderna things is ridiculous. Particularly when the vitamin D would have helped a lot and that was suppressed and hidden. It's almost like that, the Invictus Games, I know that maybe it wouldn't be fair for people to compete if they're disabled, but this is the thing. If you take into account, everyone has got their own height. No one's born the same height, right? So you get short people and you get really tall people because that's how people are. They don't have a basketball league for short people. I don't think. Good basketball players are tall by nature. But that's the thing. People who are interested in getting into basketball are primarily lanky because they're good at it and tall. So they choose to do it. Right? So that would mean that short people have a disability or disadvantage. Right? So what actually is happening is in life, some people are just clumsy. Some people just are rubbish. Some people have got skills. But you don't exclude them from basketball or, all this hidden disability thing that they're talking about. So if someone just is how they are, that is how they are, why shouldn't they be able to participate by how they are and just be, if there's someone in a wheelchair who, has to be in a wheelchair, why not just say, this person's not very good at walking or so not good at walking, they have to have a wheelchair. But there might be plenty of people who play basketball professionally who aren't that good at walking. Generally, people who are good at jumping, it's dominated by those type of people because they're the ones who get pro, right? I mean, therefore, all the other leagues that aren't the top leagues are going to be people who might be really tall, but they just might not be very skillful, or they might be skillful but not tall enough to compete. So in a way, there is some sort of central. I think it's got some sort of sadomasochistic thing about it. The way that the government and TV have been going about it, particularly things like X Factor and that. And I think that what the problem is the sensationalism itself, but not just for the disability or for, the sex change or whatever. For it, I think that what it shows is that maybe X Factor isn't a good thing. maybe Big Brother watch, the glory, all this O2 Arena gross excess of celebritism is wrong. And that is the thing, because then what happens is all these people have been made to, be, in excess. And then when you get disabled people, they're feeling less celebrated than even, you or me or a normal person who doesn't pursue or seek that or have interest in it. So then it's almost kind of like saying, oh, well, we because we're celebrating all these other people, we've got to them for make an extra spectacle out of the disabled people to make up for it, because we're already in excess. And that, I think, is what is making it odd and weird and strange. Not to say that this guy shouldn't be awarded or commended, but what caused it? I think that there's something really, really strange going on all through history. They haven't had, Biden, someone like Biden, going senile at the same time as, they've got Johnson and other people by these bioweapon things and all this weird. There's a lot of explaining for Parliament to do, and it's almost like these incidents are manufactured or framed somehow. Like this guy has been given this disease. I'm not saying that, who would do that? Well, that's a good question. Who would? But whoever did, he's ended up being celebrated for it, just like the criminals are. And some might say, well, no, I'm not celebrating them. I'm trying to stop them. I'm trying to get rid of them. But he gets to go out on the podium and have a good shout about it and make a spectacle and exhibition about the criminals in order to get all the surveillance and things that they're, what by coincidence, they're wanting in anyway. There's something very, very, very peculiar about this. I growing up through life, 10, 20, 30, years, there were, Jeremy Beadle, he's got a small hand. There are things, but on this epic scale and this frequency of events now, there is something most definitely happening, which is not what we usually experience a frequency of. And this is what Robert F. Kennedy was talking about. He's talking about, that no one had all these skin diseases or other diseases. It's like celebrating what's happening. I think there's that scene called The Wishmaster. And in that Wishmaster, he says, I wish for, amazing things to happen, but things happen that aren't that amazing, and lots of odd people just start turning into weird things. There's so many things. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy's got issues himself. Biden, it's starting to kind of feel a little bit like a scene from that Wishmaster film when, but instead of everyone kind of freaking out and going, help, 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 what Parliament are doing is they don't all turn up at the debate. They all ran away. They didn't go, this is concerning, people are dying, we'll have to do something about it. But then when all the weird stuff starts happening like this, they're all in the chamber clapping. It's like they're clapping at a disaster. It's like they're celebrating the Twin Towers or the 9/11, or celebrating the war, or celebrating, gas chambers. It's like they are cheering it on, cheerleaders for it. And that is, what, I mean, Dr. John Campbell is really, really, saying there are things not right happening at the moment. And, Neil Oliver Russell Brand. So, I mean, Parliament, it's almost as if they are celebrating their creations or plans. I mean, another film comes to mind, like on Batman, you know, with the Joker, when there's that woman, and you know, he goes, "Oh, do you want to see my new creation?" And then he's got a mask on her, because what happened to him? He gave her that, you know, Smedley stuff or whatever, what causes the weird face smile or whatever. But, you know, something happened to her face, and then he took it off, and he goes, "Oh, isn't it beautiful?" You know, it's starting to feel like that. And I don't even know what this video is. You know, I'll probably tag, you know, Campbell and Neil Oliver and Brand in it. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? And is this going to happen to all of us? And is this now? Is this it? Is this the start of what's happening with all those other diseases appearing that they don't know anything about? Like that Sexton guy called out in his crime report. Are we all just going to now gradually start, you know, in despair, like in the Wishmaster scene, when everyone, you know, starts transforming into, you know, going ill or odd? And are the MPs going to not actually say, oh, you know, something bad's or wrong's happening, and they'll run out of the Parliament, or it almost... If there was ever... This is worse than the Romans framing the Celts for their odd rituals and the sacrifices. This is worse than that, because this is Parliament's fault. They actually ushered this in and guided it. And the fact that TV are still going on with celebrations, game shows, entertainment, getting audiences in, clapping and laughing while people are in despair, while these countries are getting bombed, while there's refugees, while there's these health defects, the entertainment, the clapping, the applause, the ovations to the actual horror that's happening. And that is what is perverse about it. It is perverse, you know. They're making some sort of worship out of the either peculiar, rare, macabre, or sinister. It's some sort of maiming ritual, or some sort of mutiny or mutational thing that's bio-related. So, you know, I mean, what else can you say? Because it's the way they're going about it. That, I mean, if they weren't, if life was pretty standard and normal without the sensationalism, you wouldn't need to sensationalize and glorify the peculiar or odd or unfortunate. And it's that is where I am with it. I actually blame the excess. I blame the excess. I mean, you know, well, yeah, because it's been caused, hasn't it? It's not just like someone was born this way or that way. This is happening to lots of different people in many, many different ways now. They're celebrating. They're actually now kind of... It's all right to have humour and laugh at a misfortune, but a comedy show is a comedy show, or a joke's a joke. A joke is a joke. It's like a passing humour. In comedy's been sensationalised to epic, you know, proportions. It's, you know, what can you say?